Let's kick off the grains unit with our first recipe, rice pilaf. As all great recipes do, we begin with mise en place. We will small dice a half of an onion, and then we will go ahead and cut our mushrooms into smaller pieces as well. We've already washed them, just need to make sure that they are even in size and around about the same size as our onion. Now, not all pilaf dishes have mushrooms in it. You can add a lot of different vegetables. I'm just choosing mushrooms because I love the flavor. We will also need 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, 1 cup of long grain rice. There's our small dice cut vegetables. We will also need a small amount of kosher salt and 1 3/4 cup of chicken broth. Now, the first step of our recipe is gonna maybe seem a little odd. I have a sifter with my 1 cup of long grain rice and some cool water, and I'm just moving the rice around, rinsing it off, making sure to remove some of the extra starch that's sitting around the rice grains. And I can see this dissolving starch in the bowl that's right underneath the sifter. You notice that from the get-go it was very murky, cloudy, and the longer that I do this, the clearer the water gets. That's telling us that I'm successful at getting the extra starch off the rice. And this whole thing is because I don't want my rice to end up gummy or sticky. That's pretty much the exact opposite of what you want in a pilaf, and so that's why this step is so important. Once the water runs clear, you can stop with the rinsing and no need to dry it off. I just shake away any excess water. Now onto our large saucepan, we are going to add our tablespoon of butter into the saucepan around medium heat, and our first step will be to melt that butter. And in comes the onion. And the mushrooms. We are going to stir well as to coat these vegetables with our butter and saute. So this is the step in the recipe where you can really start to be creative if you want to. If you don't like mushrooms, you don't have to add them here. Instead, maybe you could add in bell peppers, carrots, celery, peas. Really, most vegetables would probably work right here in this step in the recipe. What we're going to do is make sure to saute these vegetables until the onions become translucent. We're hopefully seeing that color change in the pan right now. It goes from being bright white to more clear looking. Be patient, don't rush it. The onions are translucent, so now the long grain rice will join the pan. This is where making rice pilaf really differs from making rice. What we're doing is toasting the rice. There's a couple things to look for. We want to look to see the ends of the rice grains turning slightly translucent. We're also going to start to smell a difference. It smells nutty or kind of like toast. That's one of the big benefits of this rice pilaf cooking method. It allows for that slightly different, nuttier taste that comes from the sauteing step, and we do kind of get that at the end in the final product. Of course, we're also allowing for more creativity with the addition of the vegetables, and that's something that we don't do when we just typically boil the rice in water. It lends itself to a whole bunch more flavor this way. It also takes a little bit less cooking time just because of this step. We're kind of par cooking the rice, so it takes less time to boil away the liquid that we'll see added in just a little bit. Remember to keep the rice moving in the pan, that's important. And then as we are nearing kind of the 4 or 5 minute mark here on the toasting of our rice, I'm checking to see any of those visual signs. Definitely smelling it at this point, but can I see the translucent edges on the majority of the rice grains? I want to make sure I see that before I move on. So now we add in our liquid, 1 3/4 cup chicken broth and about 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. You can adjust that amount depending upon how salty the chicken broth is that you're using. And notice that we're using that for flavor. It makes a big difference rather than just boiling in water. We'll wait for our chicken broth to come up to a boil before we reduce the heat to low and place a lid on the pan. It's very important not to forget to reduce the heat to low. After 15 to 18 minutes worth of simmering time, the liquid will simmer away while the rice cooks. Oh wait, coronavirus, don't touch your face. After 15 minutes of time, I am checking to see our progress. I still see some liquid in the bottom of the pan. It's not completely evaporated away, so I am going to return the lid and continue to let it go for a couple more minutes. Here we are at the 18-minute mark, and it is right about there, very, very close. Still see a little bit of liquid still in the pan, so it's not going to need much more time, but it will need slightly more. So I will return the lid and give it about a minute more. And we're there. After a quick stir, I'm going to taste to make sure that we have the flavors that we want. At this point, if we need to add more salt, now's the time to do it. But I think it's great. So I will turn off our heat, return the lid to the pan, and take the pan completely off of the heat. I will set a 5 to 10 minute timer while the rice continues to steam and set, and that will give me time to finish cooking the main piece of our meal. I'm gonna try my hand at crispy skinned salmon, something I have never tried before. And with that, it is time to plate. I'm gonna show you a method that I like to use when it comes to portioning and serving rice. I have a small bowl, and I'm gonna lightly press the rice into the bowl. And then I'm just gonna turn the bowl upside down onto the plate. If you don't want it to look so bowl-shaped, just a small press with your wooden spoon will also help to even it out. I'm adding a little bit of minced parsley just for a little bit more color. Our mushroom pilaf is a little bit brown, so I think a pop of color on this dish will be nice. Of course, if you're plating it also with some sort of protein, this mounded rice in the middle of a plate allows a little bit of height, so I'm just placing the salmon right on top of that, and then adding a little bit of color as well. And with that, our mushroom rice pilaf is ready.